Hey, my name is Tkacs. I am mostly known for my adventure riding lessons. However, as adventure riders, we do spend a lot of time on pavement. Last year, I did a video on trail braking for the street. And I had one particular comment down below from Gustavo Mendoza that really illustrated some of the most common questions from beginner riders or people who have never done trail braking formally, specifically for the street. And I mentioned the street because trail braking on the street is done for one reason and one reason only. I don't want to die. And I don't want anything to surprise me while I'm out riding. And trail braking allows me to prevent surprises from happening, keep me alive so I can keep enjoying the riding that I love to do. That's its job. If we're on a racetrack, then we can use it for changing traction loads. We can change the geometry of the bike so it'll turn in quicker. We might use it to put ourselves into a blocking position. There's a lot of different reasons why we would trail brake on the racetrack in a performance environment, but on the street, it's really simple. I just want to stay alive. So to start off with, I'm going to just give you the questions and answer them as I go. Again, there's 3 here that Gustavo sent to us. The first one, and I like that he started off with this one, it is one of the most common questions for new riders. I've been training for 27 years now, and a good portion of that I train brand new riders, both in the dirt and on the street. And so this is a very common question. Number 1, so I'm guessing that leaning and having the handles turn are 2 different things. Second part of the same question, because the teacher said the reason I dropped the bike was because I have the handlebars turned when I was using the front brakes. So part 1, turning the handlebars and leaning are for all, let's just say they are interlinked as riders. There's very seldom that we actually direct steer the motorcycle if we're riding on speed, and certainly if we're on high traction surfaces, when we're going to consider anything paved as high traction. So whether we're going 10 miles an hour, 5 miles an hour, doing U-turns, or we're doing 50 miles an hour, counter steering is generally involved in the motorcycle turning process. And counter steering is simply when the bike is coming at you, the front wheel steers away from the direction of the lean, and then the bike falls into the turn. And if you think about it, what we're really talking about is you're yanking the front of the bike, or you're yanking the bike out from underneath it. So if the bike's coming at you and the front wheel goes to the right, the bike falls opposite that direction. But once it falls, rake and trail will end up causing that front wheel to track back in with the turn, and it ends up turning in the same direction. If you take a picture of a bike at high speed out on the racetrack, if we want to go extreme, you'll notice that as they're leaning, the front wheel is slightly turned into the lean. And if you do a very low speed U-turn maneuver and you slow speed, you'll notice that the wheel actually kicks opposite of the lean. Even though you feel like you're turning directly in, you'll notice the wheel will actually track out slightly before it turns in. So we're going to say those are pretty well interlinked, but it's probably not what the instructor was really thinking about. He's probably saying you're leaned over, you're turning the motorcycle. He's considering that one and the same. And as a new rider, if we're not very good with the throttle and the brakes, which we're going to assume is the case, we're just learning how to ride, right? That's where we all start. We're more likely to panic and grab. And even if we're not panicking, we don't have the delicate feel yet. We're not sure where it's at, and we're more likely to over brake, causing the bike to fall over. The problem is not that the instructor told you that don't use the brakes when the bike's leaned over in that learning environment. The problem comes when you believe that as an experienced rider. When you go out into the real world and you learn how to use your bike and you learn where that braking is, and you still carry that thought that somehow you're not supposed to be braking while leaning. That's just not a natural thing. And as a rider, we will all naturally lean towards the trail braking. Even those that deny it, if they really break it down and evaluate themselves, they'll find out they actually do slow in the curve. That keeps us alive. Second question. So you lean left or right while holding the front brakes, but maybe 30% and let off the gas, holding on the front brakes. But once you see the exit, Then you let off the front brakes and slowly give it gas. What he's trying to do is summarize what I explained in that video from last summer. When we go into a curve and we're using trail braking, and trail braking is going to exist for some very specific curves. If I can see all the way through the curve and I have a nice open view, there's no reason to trail brake. Trail braking is about speed control or visual control, and on the street, it's generally visual. The reality is there's a lot of curves that are hidden by trees, by rocks, by other houses, whatever, that we can't actually see what's on the other side. Also, when we're on public roads, as opposed to a racetrack, where if you've seen the corner a minute and 30 seconds ago, there's somebody standing there with a yellow flag saying, watch out, there's a problem, or red flag going, slow down, there's a big problem. On the street, we don't get any of that. And even if you've been through that corner 100 times and you were there 30 minutes ago, there's no guarantee the corner looks the same. Right? There are a lot of things can happen in that amount of time, vehicles, debris, animals. There's a lot of reasons that we treat every single corner on the street as if it's the very first time we've ever seen that corner. And that's how we stay alive. When we go into those corners, one of those corners where we can't really see all the way through, what we're going to do is we're going to start by giving it our best guess. We're going to brake what we think we need to finish that curve. And that's going to upset some of you watching this video, but let me explain. The best guess means I'm looking at the sign, the 20 mile per hour sign that says this is how it is. I'm looking at the surroundings and how many intersections there are, what kind of traffic's coming at us, what kind of debris might be in the road or what it's made out of. And I'm going to pick a speed that I believe, with all the evidence that's around me, is the speed that I should be taking that corner at. That's my best guess. I'm going to set that speed, but I'm not going to release the brakes fully until I see the other side of the curve. When I see the exit, that's when I get to let those brakes off. That's when I get to add throttle. As far as the 30% goes, that's a lot. If I'm going to that corner and still holding 30%, I'm probably in a more competitive environment, not necessarily on the street. If I'm doing my best guess for what I believe I have to finish that corner at, I'm probably entering that corner with maybe 1% to 10% of my braking. I'm just sort of not letting all the way out. I'm keeping some tension in my driveline, some tension in my suspension. I'm keeping tension in the brake system so that if I need more braking and I begin squeezing more, I'm not upsetting the balance of the motorcycle. And that's because, again, if I haven't been there before, I come around the corner and a dog jumps out, I'm going to add braking. If I've never truly seen the corner before and I come through and I find out it's not 90 degrees, that it's 270 degrees, or 360 degrees and it wraps down underneath itself, then I'm already set, because as that corner tightens up and I realize I'm going faster than I need to be, I'm just going to increase that brake pressure just a little bit to match my vision. I'm never going to ride faster than I can see and stop, period. And that goes whether you're on the pavement or whether you're off-road. That's how we stay alive. Question number 3. Do I use the rear brakes and hold the clutch, or do I not use those when trail braking? The way I define trail braking on public roads, it's any planned and deliberate deceleration that begins before your turn point and finishes before your apex. When I say planned and deliberate deceleration, it means we just need to be slowing down. That means brakes or engine braking. That's really the only two ways we're going to do this. That's front brake and rear brake, or rear brake only, or it could just be rolling off. Now, when I say deceleration, generally I'm not clutching down and throwing off, because that doesn't, or throwing the clutch out, that doesn't give me really controlled deceleration. What I'm thinking normally on the street is a high gear deceleration. This is essentially where you're rolling into the corner, you're going fast, or you want to go a little slower, but you don't actually need to use brakes to slow down. You're not going that fast. You're just sort of easing off your acceleration to go, well, am I going to be clear? And the corner goes through and you just pick it back up. And this could be just a high-speed mountain curve running 50 miles an hour or 60 miles an hour somewhere, and you're just kind of rolling off to get a sight of the land, and you pick that throttle back up and you keep moving. So it's a pretty wide range as far as how we slow and how much we slow. But as we get into this, again, thinking about it for the street versus competition. Trail braking on a racetrack may be so aggressive that you'll see the back end actually come off the ground while they're braking on the front brake only trail braking into a curve. I mean, it's really aggressive, but they have high traction. They know where they're at. They're set up for that. They're doing it to win. They need to change the geometry. They need to turn in quicker. For the street, that's not what we're doing on the street. That's not the place to do that. If that's how you want to ride, then please go do a track day. It's a lot of fun. I've taught out there. I've spent a lot of time on the racetracks. It's a blast. But those techniques and that riding attitude does not belong on public roads. You're not going to stay alive very long. So in general, yeah, you can use the rear brake. That's the most risky, in my opinion, of using the rear. It has the least amount of feedback. It's the most likely to break traction. So trail braking to me would be more likely front and rear or deceleration. Not that I don't use rear only, but it's pretty rare that that comes in to be my preferred method of trail braking. As far as the clutch goes, to answer the question directly, I never brought the clutch up. So if I'm thinking trail braking, I'm thinking deliberate braking. I'm using the brakes or I'm using the engine, and one of those two methods to cause the bike to slow. If I'm going to get into the clutch, then we're most likely doing maneuvering. Also, you'll realize none of this is panic-based. We're not going to the corner and going, yeah, I'm trail braking. That way I can just grab the brakes. Ah! No, that's not how we do it. That's all panic. Oh, yeah, well, yeah, this is panic braking. We'll just leave it at that. Trail braking should always be part of the plan. I'm on the brakes. If something happens, I increase the braking. I go around, whatever happened, I continue on my way. I really appreciate you watching the channel. If you would like to support more lessons like this, then please consider joining Patreon and supporting the channel through that platform, or just leaving a deposit through YouTube. That does keep me from bringing on sponsors so that I can just focus on the lesson at hand. Please, if you're not subscribed, subscribe, leave a comment, give me a thumbs up, tick the bell so you don't miss the next lesson, and I will see you on the next video.